Hey guys, what's up? It's Shla, and today I'm bringing you another episode of Car Rides with Shla. And this morning, a little bit crazy. So I had to, and I guess I'm going to have to explain something else before I even get into that. So yesterday, what I was going to talk about is that we're trying to put together the TooMuchSlop AI live stream because at this point we have enough content, hours worth of me talking, to create an AI that would talk like me, sound like me. And it's a good idea, I think, to just have this continuous running live stream AI. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's very new, it's very current, right? And so we're looking into it, and we finally got that going. And it's been working now, and it's really, I like listening to it. I think it's intoxicating. I think it's concerning. It gives me a bit of a run for my money. Of course, I think it's coming from my business. Like I keep saying, I'm going to go out of business. This is going to take away my because the way it's able to speak so quickly and the words that it uses so quickly, I don't think a human can compete with that. I just don't. It's pretty crazy if you listen to it, you know? It is. It's just really a crazy situation. Sorry, my throat just feels very scratchy this morning. I mean, I know I'm not sick. I know I'm definitely not sick, but it seems very strange. And my voice also maybe I'm just having second puberty and now my voice is I'm joking. It's just, I don't know, that thing where you wake up and you sound like your voice is deeper or something. Anyways, so yeah, we're making Shla AI. It's up today. It was really up yesterday. I'm not sure how consistent it's going to be when we're getting things off the road, but for the time being, it's up. And yeah, I wonder if there's a limit to how long a YouTube live stream can be. I'm not really sure. But I think it's a great idea. Apparently, some people don't. It's led to 2 subscribers to unsubscribe, which I think is really very disappointing, honestly. I don't know. I assume the reason for that, and I've done no research into this, is that probably when you live stream, it puts the channel up somewhere, and I'm assuming people... It probably puts it up right at the top or something, and a lot of people saw that, and that it was persistent because it wasn't ending. The live stream was just for hours all day yesterday pretty much. So they probably just unsubscribed because they didn't want to see it anymore. That's what I think happened. But it's silly. I mean, if I saw that, man, that's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. We're ahead of the curve, you know? We are ahead of the curve. But it is what it is. Now, I noticed, though, with the AI, I still don't think it's as good as a larger scale message. A lot of what it's capable of now is still in segments. And you notice this with ChatGPT as well, anyways. The maximum seems to be about, 5 to 7 minutes worth of dialogue, and then that's it. So I don't know if those limits are probably malleable, though, based on if you had your own model. But that's really the point. I don't know if it's limited for now, and it probably won't always be that way, but it just seems like it's difficult for it to really have a broader scope of a message. It kind of is interpreting a lot of my speech as random. That seems to be what it's trying to emulate, like somebody who's just very scatterbrained and all over the place having a bunch of random thoughts. That's what it's trying to emulate. That's kind of what it sees me as. And I don't believe that that's accurate. I mean, I think I'm scatterbrained to some extent, but it's not that is not a forefront of my personality. You know, the AI is really making the randomness and the philosophy of a focal point, and there's actually so much more depth, I believe, to my message and a lot of the topics I talk about and things that I talk about. I don't think it's just random. I think I've talked about that before too, and it kind of aligns with one of my friend's theories. And like I said, I don't know, my throat. It aligns with wow. Wow, man, I don't know what's going on. This is not normal. Man, the show could get... What happened to my voice, man? Man, the show could get ruined. We're going to have to try to muscle through it. I don't know what's going on. Wow, that felt horrible. That kind of stuff usually doesn't happen to me either. I don't really think I'm particular. It's not common. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's probably allergies or something. It's kind of late in the season for allergies though, but no, it might just be a fluke. It just might be some random, but like I said, I am definitely not sick. I know I was talking a lot yesterday. In the last episode, if you listen to it, you can probably tell I'm talking pretty fast. I'm getting through a lot of different topics, and I'm also in that mode now. So I'm assuming that has something to do with it, but I'm not entirely sure. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know. But anyways, so AI, and it really interprets things as shallow and as random. I mean, not shallow, but it really overemphasizes the ADHD or the, just bouncing around nature of my conversation, which I don't even think I actually have ADHD. I know I made the video in the past and I called it ADHD is the future, and I know I really reiterated that in the description. Well, not during the video. I don't know why I'm saying description. I really reiterated that ADHD is the future. And so I don't know if it's pulling from that, but I don't think I actually have ADHD. If I need to sit still, I can. I actually think more so than... Because I know people who are neurotypical and they still get fidgety. I'm not even like that. If I need to just sit still, I can sit still. I don't have to be doing something. When I go to bed, I go to bed in silence, in the darkness. There's no TV running. There's no audio playing. So I don't think I have ADHD. I'm just not fidgety. Compared to even, again, people I know do not have ADHD diagnosed. I just don't think I have it. I think I'm relatively good at focusing, especially compared to whatever baseline my generation has had. And just even in general. I mean, yeah, of course, sometimes it's pretty easy to get distracted with tech and all these things, but for the most part, I just don't think I would get an ADHD diagnosis. And that's why I think it's interesting the way the AI it's limited in scope in terms of interpreting me and the way I would be or would talk. It's assuming that. I think maybe because of the quickness and the shifting of topics and maybe my acknowledging of the shifting of topics, it's just assuming ADHD. But I just think that's very interesting because it goes back to this thing my friend always told me where he thinks that when people hear me talk, they just think I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm switching between a ton of different topics. But he would be able to say, no, I see that there's usually a broader point and there's a bigger cohesive message. And I think that always, when I heard him say that, I think it makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people do tend to do that with me. Either, casually dismiss the things I say or think I'm just crazy and all over the place and all this stuff. And yeah, there's obviously not a ton of merit to that, because there is usually a very cohesive message being orchestrated by a lot of my talking points. It's not just, some random string of things. It's a cohesive message if you actually look at it. I just think people are not used to having to listen to and compute a long form dialogue, especially one that is as packed as I tend to pack mine, and string a bunch of things together and connect the dots. Particularly in this day and age, that is not something that is very commonplace, especially with the prevalence of short form content and the shrinking attention span and yada yada yada. We already been through this stuff so many times, but I digress. I think that it's important to point that out, because I'm noticing the AI is sort of doing the same thing, and that could be reflective of lower IQ humans. Now, the other thing I guess I wanted to get into is I was late because I had left my recording phone in the house, because I did a recording for my friend, because the AI needs to read something to get your voice, and the ones from Car Ride with Schla, they don't tend to be level when I'm in the car, because I'm talking. There's fluctuations. Sometimes I'm loud, sometimes I'm quiet, so I had to try to record something that was flat, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't record it. No, wait, stop. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just on autopilot now. I couldn't. The flatness. Sorry, I had to record something that was flat. And so I was trying to execute that, and I left my phone in the house. So just now I had to run back into the house to get it, and that stuff kind of just ticks me off. But I guess we have to assume that it's divinely guided, right? That when, you forget this or you're slightly late for that, it was for a reason. It happens all the time, so you like to tell yourself that instead of throwing a tantrum in the driveway and waking up all the neighbors and the people sleeping in the house, But I could have thrown a tantrum. I could have just screamed. I could have just shrieked. I could have done whatever God allowed me the freedom to do, really. Who knows what I could have done, man, but I guess that's going to be for another time and another tale. But that's why I still am actually really on time today. Like, I think I'm getting out of there the earliest I have. But what am I saying? I'm getting out of there the earliest I have, but I would have been even earlier. I would have struck like a near perfect time, but who knows? I mean, maybe now I'll strike a near perfect time. I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is what I was going to talk about before all this stuff, which is that I was just thinking this before I left the house, that my brain and the way I speak and the way I communicate is very AI-like. Because I think if anybody is going to be cut out to compete with the upcoming AI takeover that I'm sort of predicting, because again, already the AI voice stuff is very strong. It is nearly impossible for a human to have that level of vocabulary and that level of just ability to pull random things out of nowhere and say them. And I think with tweaking, you can easily see how stressful it could be to someone who is vocal as their career. That's why I said, we're not going corporate with this idea. We're coming for corporate. And I also said, we're coming for Rogan. we're going for Rogan. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't compete. A human cannot, I don't think in the long term will be able to compete, particularly a human monitoring it. So if, let's say, me as a human, I'm live and I'm live monitoring my AI and I can kind of tweak it on the fly, that would be a deadly disaster. I'm telling you, because the only thing an AI has a problem with is structure and striking topics and things. And if I'm sitting there behind the scenes tweaking this, shifting this knob, turning this knob, flipping that switch to make sure that the AI might stay more on track or go down a more cohesive path, Rant, that's dangerous. That's definitely dangerous. And there's no way me as a human can compete with that. Besides, my conversations are limited. I only record 30 minutes at a time. Now, technically, I think I could go for a few hours. I think I'm particularly good at talking, but I don't know. The AI has no limit. The AI could just keep talking and talking and talking. There's no limit to the AI. It just does. It just keeps going and going and going. And now with this live stream we're doing, it was just talking all night. That's not human. That's crazy. You know what I mean? And there's sort of a thing with that. Now, maybe someday, like I said, I do want to live stream. I think I'm really meant for live streaming. I think this format is not, it's not really conducive to me. Sadly, I really do need to be able to live stream, but I don't know. I'm not there yet. You know, I'm not at that. I don't know. I guess I'm just realizing now I actually could be live streaming to, yeah, I could actually live stream all of these, because the recordings would just be through the mic and then the live stream would be through the phone. So I actually could live stream these. I didn't even think about that until this very moment. That it's possible that would be a good idea. Wow. I can't believe that just came to me. I'm going to have to look into that, won't I? Yeah, absolutely. I need to figure that out. Because that would be important, to be able to live stream like that. Super important. Because I think with the style of content it is, it's just more conducive to a live stream. Although, like I said, in some ways it may kind of ruin it. Like, I'd have to kind of ignore the chat a little bit, I think. Or I'd have to be very selective about which responses I choose to respond to, because I just don't think it would be good if I just started trying to read chat. It would slow the pace. That's kind of the problem, I think, is I'm at such a pace with the speed and the complexity that some people's comments would just derail the whole thing, and I'd have to just ignore them, and I have to just talk. But I think going on live could really be a potentially great thing for me. So I'm definitely going to have to look into that for sure. I can't believe I just thought of that now. I mean, I just haven't even thought of it prior to now. I still didn't even get to the main thing I wanted to talk about, and I forget what I was going at, so I guess I'm going to go back to that. Like, I forget what I was about to say, the temporary culminating part, so we're going to revert back to the previous. I suppose that makes sense. The previous thing I was going to say is my brain is very AI-like to begin with. And this is terms that anybody I've ever known or interacted with. Before AI, the way I operated was very AI-like. It just was. I would always be looking things up, trying to figure stuff out. Now, granted, it wasn't as fast. I actually think I may have said this before, but I think the past couple months, AI has really accelerated what I learn in pretty huge ways. Now, some of it's been time wasted because it gets something wrong and then I have to correct it, and then, that wastes a lot of time. But I still think overall it is a faster way to learn and expand knowledge and information. It's really it's going to change things fundamentally, especially as they get more sophisticated and better at giving answers. It's pretty amazing, but in some ways it's unsettling, and like I said, it's going to ultimately end up exacerbating the inequality between the smart and the dumb, which morally is questionable, but we'll have to see how things go with that. But I've always just had this AI-centered brain, and I think even the way I talk in general, it's sort of AI adjacent. Now, AI is a bit more random. I think AI is a bit more verbose. It's really can reach and get all these words that I don't think a human would really have, because it has access to the internet, I assume, or the language model can just be trained with every single word in the dictionary. So it's very difficult for a human to compete with that, because I suppose it's possible for a human to, but I don't know. I'm just not sure if they could. I mean, maybe that's an interesting thing to look up to, like what percentile of human could compete with an AI's vocabulary, right? What's the answer to that? I'd be curious to know. If I remember to look it up, I will. But I still think there's other. What's the other thing I've been meaning to look up? Is I hope I actually do it today. The amount of people who. The percentage of people who are actually talking to people versus getting most of their human auditory language from either AI or videos or podcasts. I'd be very curious to know about that, and I should know it by now, because I keep saying that every time we do it, but then I just keep forgetting as the day actually goes on. And it's not in a braggadocious way either. I just think it's genuinely an AI-like brain in terms of wanting to look things up, being capable of looking things up. But of course, it's not possible for a human to do it as well. Maybe a human can do it more accurately, but there's going to eventually be a point where AI can just do it faster and better. So eventually I'm just going to be put out of business, but I just hope that when the AI takeover happens, the AI see me as worthy. I hope so. And that should tell you something. Like, I don't know. I don't know if the AI is going to see me as worthy. It really depends. It really depends. They might just think no humans are worthy. Let's get rid of all of them. That happens a lot. It happens a lot, doesn't it? Yeah, I have no idea what I was saying there. I guess I was just saying it happens a lot, but it doesn't, because it's never actually even happened yet. There has not been the robot takeover, and so I don't know why I was saying it happens a lot. But yeah, that AI brain thing, I just think, and I think the way I talk and speak and the speed with which I'm going to be able to communicate, I think that's going to be able to compete, hopefully, with AI. Now, I hope that I can expand on my skills and capabilities with speed and inflection and cadence and all these things, because I do think it's going to be difficult for AI to match. It might be possible someday, but I think it's going to be difficult for AI to talk with a speed and keep a lot of the human inflections and things in there. I just don't know. I think it might, because even now it's tricky. It can't really nail it. And so at a slower speed it might be able to, but I think at a higher speed it's really difficult to compete with a human. The thing is, though, is it's going to get good enough, and the good enough threshold is what's scary. And that's why I really think I need to hit it big before AI voice gets to the good enough point. Because even once it gets to 80-90%, it's over. There's probably not really going to be new creators anymore. So I have to make it big before it gets to 70, 80, 90%. Because once it's past a certain threshold, most people won't be able to perceive it. That's the whole issue, right? Most people won't be able to perceive the difference from, or, they might perceive the difference, but for a lot of people, they're not as perceptive. So they might not truly notice it or really care about it that much. Because people just don't, it's really difficult for people to quantify things. They usually just see things qualitatively. So if people are seeing things through the framework of good enough or not good enough, then once the AI hits a certain point, it's just going to hit it. And then it's just going to be there. And after that, we'll see this slow but sure death of real creators. Although the ones that have already existed, they're going to still be around because they have following and fan base. And so that's why I need to get there. I need to get in before the door closes. And the door's closing soon. So I'm hoping to get better. I'm hoping to get better at speaking, hopefully faster at speaking, hopefully both. Like I said, I do want to be able to speak very fast, but I also want to be able to speak fast with zero reduction in quality and inflection. And that is a thing that is difficult to pull off. But I think it's important, and I think I'm going to try to be better. And a lot of the filler words, too, that I know I've still said, even during this episode, need to get them out, because obviously an AI could just be programmed to not say them. So we're competing with perfection. That's what you have to remember. It's crunch time, and I need to compete. Now, the other thing I touched on, I think, in the very beginning briefly, is that I see this show more as food for AI now. I don't know if this is going to take off. It might. I think if enough people actually see it and watch it, it might take off. But I think that this show is really about my preservation. It's putting all this content out there and preserving. It's self-preservation. I'm going to have so much dialogue of myself and my thoughts documented that it's going to be great. Because I'm going to be immortalized, right? I already am. That's kind of what YouTube is. Now, some people do that, but I don't think many people are this conscious or direct about it. So I think it would give an AI a really good scope to duplicate or clone me, is really what I'm trying to say, just to cut to the chase. But in addition to that, for when the AI models get better and better, I am going to be right on the forefront of that. I'm going to end up being right on the forefront of the AI being able to take my voice and take my content and replicate it, and it's probably going to be able to do it better than most people. And that's why I think having a podcast, it's so essential. And I think I'm ahead of the curve in my theory that not only has it changed our way of communicating, but not only has it changed our way of communicating in terms of that thing I said about how people listen to so much passively that it's difficult for them to actually listen actively now. So it's hard for people to switch back to a regular conversation because they're used to a podcast where they don't have to be present and you just have someone playing in your ear. We've talked about that before. And so that's what people are used to. And I think truly it's going to change the way that we communicate, because it's so much easier for people, especially in this disorganized state, to, if they have a friend, just keep up with them via TikTok or via YouTube, wherever the content's at. That's how they're going to keep up with their friend, because they can't put in the effort, or people don't have the energy to plan a call, to plan to hang out. So in the future, when you interact with somebody, it needs to be in this medium in order to actually get a hold of people. because of how much of a mess people are. That's been my theory. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this, because I do think if you're somebody who wants friends in the future, you're going to have to be a creator. You're just not going to make it as just a person. It's just not going to work, because people are going to be so used to interacting podcast wise and interacting in the pressure free wise. It's going to completely change the way an entire chunk of the population socializes. Now, obviously, I don't think everybody will be like that. I think certain people won't. I think there will be a minority percentage who will still always be able to socialize properly. But for the most part, I think most communication is just going to have to be recorded. It's going to have to be in this podcast format, because people cannot be bothered to plan properly and all the work that takes. Whereas if you listen to a creator regularly, you get the same vibes of having a friend. It's good enough for enough people. And then, of course, I still think it affects people mentally, but they can't put their finger on it. Because that's part of the problem, too. It's that good enough threshold where somebody might be depressed and they might think they're an introvert because people are too draining to deal with. And that could be due to executive functioning failures on the person's fault or the people they're interacting with's fault, really. I don't know that it could really be both, as well as environmental hurdles to get over. I think I've said it before. The environmental hurdles is the distracting nature of tech and all that, because that is very real nowadays. It creates environments that are more difficult for introverted people. Well, in some ways it actually enables a lot of introverts. So that's kind of a tricky point to make, actually. I think it makes it hard for introverts when they're in public, because then you're not pressured to socially experience properly, whereas in the past an introvert would have learned something. They would have got something because they would have been forced to socialize. Now introverts are able to, in public, I get social anxiety. Okay, I'm just going to go on my phone and not talk to anybody. You know what I mean? So that happens now. And then so you're not learning as much. But then at the same time, introverts have access to the digital interface of recording and all these things that didn't exist before. You could argue with me it's a blessing in a way, because a lot of these ideas would never exist. So in terms of furthering the furthest potential of the human mind, I actually think it's good. It's very good, these platforms and things, but it's causing a lot of people a lot of pain too. And it does exacerbate inequality, as I continue to repeat, just because of how important of a point it is. Because a lot of people, and I think I was one of them, but I think a lot of people really thought that technology was going to continue to make things fairer. It seemed like that with the trajectory it was on, but now that it's powerful enough, we can see that certain people just get distracted by it and get caught up in the limitless content consumption, and it's just not helpful. It's hard for a lot of people. So that's the truth of it. And I don't know. It's just a lot of people can't handle it. And I guess it actually just doesn't make their life better, period. Because people get used to, again, a lot of the just distracting natures of it. I don't know. I don't really know how else to describe that. And it doesn't help. Whereas other people can use it for productivity. And that is obviously able to put them further ahead than they would have been if it wasn't for technology. So it's really going to be crazy. And like I said, I guess I'd like to see myself as the one of the beneficiaries of this, but I'm not sure that I am or not. I guess time will tell. I mean, you can't really complain. I guess this is just life at this point, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's all good questions. It's all interesting stuff to think about. But I do think I'm fortunate to have a brain that seems particularly well suited for what we're going through. That's what I think. And I hope to really properly cultivate that and not end up squandering it, because definitely could get squandered. That's completely possible. So I don't know. I guess you try your best, right? You do what you can, and you figure all this stuff out one step at a time. But in the meantime, I need to just make my communication ability. We need to push the autopilot to the max. We need to be able to autopilot very well. We need to be able to active pilot really well too. We need to be able to do both. I found out apparently it's not special to think and talk at the same time, so we need to think and talk even further at the same time simultaneously. You know what I'm saying? We need to go all out with this stuff. There needs to be not a stone unturned that we have not been through. So, yeah, I mean, that's that really. We're kind of running out of time. Like I said, I'm doing a bit of an extension now because I think I can get away with it, really. I don't know. I was just always thinking differently, but I'm realizing there's no reason to stop the show as early as I was, because I could definitely keep talking. It's going to take time to get used to it, of course, but yeah, I think that's definitely something to do. But we need to get all fronts, the automated, the unautomated. We got to figure everything out. And we got to hope that people start seeing this, because nobody's watching it, and y'all are crazy for that. But anyways, it's been schla, but it's time to buy schla, and I will see you schla. Bye.